Yahemelo, Yahemelo, Hemelo, Statewio, Hemelo, Statewio, Hemelo, Yahemelo, Yahemelo, Hemelo, Statewio, Hemelo, Statewio, Hemelo.
Oh. That's the Coyote Borrego Springs song to open this session of Coyote Talks. So, oh say oh.
Oh, say oh.
Turkey greeting. And wave the great feather for the good of it. I'm nature's son, tracking the fat left undone. And the old-time hunters, they know that the best primo fat is found at the base of the horns of the big horn sheep, Borrego. So here I go. Now this is coming from last Sunday. Last Sunday I'm kind of doing this kind of a part 2 with that. And 2 weeks ago, it'd be the Christmas holidays, I was in Borrego Springs, and there I was celebrating my birthday. And a gift for my birthday was this Coyote star. This is a native, I think Paiute woman made this. This is the Coyote star. Whenever the Coyote star is the end in the ascendance, then we know that something special is going on. So we're looking forward to this new year as a good new year. So that's the way I'm going to start. Last Sunday I was presenting the Celtic New Year. That was a petroglyph called Gabro Lem, goat leap, and that petroglyph is located there in eastern California in the Coso Range. So I'm going to start off with another Celtic petroglyph here. So if you can go over here to this one. This is in the same region, and it is a Celtic petroglyph. It is in the language of Scots Gaelic, and the way that it is written is called Ogam, and this is an Ogam rebus, where it's taken the letters that make the subject making the picture of it. And this is a cruit in Gaelic. A cruit is a comb for weaving, and it is also the same name for the harp, and that's very relevant here. This hump here on the back also identifies that this is a cruitiac, a small harp. And here the horn there, duwin, it's a gleka duwin, meaning to grasp, to clutch, I seize it is what it means here. And here this ho is the eye. It's also an eye is called sul. In this case it is the eye for the wool. And here these are going to form the name. And here this is the Celtic goddess of weaving. She is also an erna, a coris erna, meaning it is a reel for measuring yarn. And here she is also doubling as the goddess, which is here in her name. So it's saying Suil. Suil, the Yui is also here. This is the diphthong here in American Celtic. So this, Suil, that she is the goddess, Celtic goddess of weaving. And what this means is somehow the Dwelly's Scottish Gaelic Dictionary is very, very comprehensive in all of the language of sheep. It seems here sheep and goat kind of seem to double with each other, so that's what we've had in these petroglyphs. We're having a goat, but it's also a sheep. Goar is significant of motion, and in this sense is used with an active present and affirmative meaning, as gobar suas liam, Westward or upwards I proceed. That seems to be really what the message is of who has inscribed this. As far as who would have wool for weaving here, that's unknown, because the bighorn sheep do not have wool. Their hair is more like a deer, like that. So somehow the inscriber from the Celtic world has want to say something to us. And this is a petroglyph in the vicinity. What it reminds me of is actually the Ammonite, but it's probably written in Ogham, because there's variations in the strokes, but I don't know how to decipher it. But that is a petroglyph reminding me of the Ammonite, so that'll get me started. The Anza Borrego Desert, which is, well, east of San Diego, over the hills or mountains, was once, for millions of years, a fabulous place. And a large part of it was called modernly the Imperial Sea. And many, many animals and creatures of all kind flourished in that world, which is now the Anza Borrego Desert. Millions of years. And the scientists, they have continued to, it's like a big laboratory, and where the state nature center is out there, you can go in there. There is a laboratory to look at fossils and things like that. Two of the creatures of millions of years ago are still there. One is the lizard. The alligator lizard or the spiny lizard, been there for 2 to 3 million years old. They're still there. And the other one is Coyote. Coyote's been there for a couple million years. Coyote is still there and here. So that's a way we can kind of locate this. So we just kind of go over there and take in this scene that I started with last week, to see this poster. It's a circle of art. It's very interesting because it's an artist's vision of putting together, superimposing the Borrego against the rocks with the petroglyphs on it. And down below, this creature here is also from there. You can go to that nature center, desert center in Borrego Springs and find those right there. So all of this is to introduce this whole theme, about the Coyote. The Coyote is the American name for these people. Americans put their own names on things, and the people there, they are the Muruwetam, meaning the first people, or even the cultured people. So that's the main subject here. And what I started with last week, and I'm going to do a little bit more on that, is this piece right here. This is a fossil ammonite, and it's named for A-mon, whoever the paleontologists or whoever they were, geologists, knew that Egyptian and gave it that name of A-mon. So that's very significant, because A-mon, the vowels vary whether you want to say A or A, A-mon, A-moon, Amen, because these were in consonants, so the vowels are kind of inferred in that case. A-mon became what we call the national deity of Egypt. It had a kind of an evolution into that. And this became certainly the prototype, first of all, for the Roman Jupiter, and then certainly into the Judeo-Christian, variously called Jehovah, Yahweh, or God. These are all names for that. The name pronounced A-man or A-man. A-man seems to be a little bit closer phonetically to what Egypt might have sounded like. When you can go to the grandmother Google and ask her about this word, amen, amen, she's going to tell you. She's going to tell you that amen has derived from the Egyptian amen or A-mon there. So that pretty much says it, because then we're going to see how all of this had evolved. The one thing that made it work this way is that this divine character, as it is, starts out as a personification. It's being a personification of the creative life force. I think in India the prana would be saying the same thing, but that's not usually personified. But here in Egypt it was personified. And as that personification continued, it even took on the appearance of a man. It became anthropomorphized, you know. So A-mon is also figured as a man. He has, you know, a pointy beard, and he has a couple of feathers on his hat, and he is the character now. And also what has happened in this is what started out, well, I have to say, in Egypt, we'll call it like alphabet, has 2 letters for this A. The first is figured as the vulture, and the second is the eagle. Now the vulture is silent, so the sound for that is just like a glottal stop. You know, it's just ah, like that. And the eagle is the voice, you know, ah, 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 ah. So whoever began to recognize this creative force in life, in the world, you know, seems to have started out with this silence, you know. To say what it is, it's the, you know, the personal pronoun, I, and it's being figured as that way. Well, what happened is when the Greeks came in and took over, and they kind of made it everything Hellenistic, you know, according to them. So you get the letter A, and then the Roman letter A, on into the English A. And that's what's kind of messed it up a bit, because then it became definitely, you know, A-mon or A-man, like that. But originally, that's not what it is. In the name of one of the pharaohs is also Imhotep, that is A-mon of peace. That, and that's how I discovered this. That starts out with the figure for that sound is a reed, is what it's called, a flowering reed. And this here is my replica of what the Egyptian hieroglyph called neter looks like. It's like that. So that is who we're talking about. That's the symbol for that. But when it entered into, you know, Greek and Roman and like that, it became, you know, a letter A. And so the whole thing, and then the MN, or MEN, whatever the vowel was, has been added by the Greeks. So it would say then Amen, Amen, like that. And that means to endure. The word itself, men, means to endure, to last forever, even eternal. So then that's where you put together, amen, you know. So they're working that, and the more that they work that, the more, you know, it became a person, a god, and so forth. And so that continued. And again, what made this all work is that this character, albeit divine and personified, has no mythical narrative, you know, just is. He just there, just happened, has no myth at all. And that's what's continued. In the case of the name God, I should say this. Nearby there's a church, and on the marquee it says, "Be silent and know that I am God." Now if you just take that word God and take it out and put in A-mon, be silent and know that I am A-mon. You have the whole holy thing. That's the whole bag. That's from the book of Psalms. Psalms is Egyptian psalms. Actually, psalms is a Greek word for plucking a harp. In Hebrew, it's David who plucks the harp to these songs, and that's what they are. You know, the word God was never a vernacular word. It was when German scribes, I'll call them that, were translating the Hebrew into German. The word Yod, with the aspirant on, Yod, means hand. And that's what got translated into German. I think probably the God had the aspirant God. Eventually, the aspirant was dropped. The aspirant was necessary to make the value of 4. There's a numeric value that carries through in these ancient languages, including Gaelic, which also has silent phonemes. And here, in this case, unless, and only modernly, unless the A has a little digit above it, you're not going to know that it's silent. So the first one is silent. So be still and know that I'm God would be pretty much, don't say it. Be quiet. So this reed, means the flowering top of the reed. The reed is a grass. It's a grass because it's hollow inside. It's called that, and in the Latin name is juncus. It's juncus, and in the Coyote name it's sayili, because it grows here, there. So that's how we get a start on this with this here. Now if we can go over there and look at that character there, which is very relevant. This is my figure for Mukat, or say At, but Mukat, like that. And he and his brother, their twin brothers, is Temawea. And here we do have a mythic narrative, how he came about. This is the white spider, Hoa Hoa, and first I should say everything is dark, is totally dark, and in this darkness, there electric flashes like lightning, and those electric flashes began to light up some threads in it. And this was the iluki. Iluki are like spider webs. And eventually, somehow, on those spider webs appearing in the dark, then Hoa Hoa appeared. And here she is. And she made 2 spider eggs. That's what these are. And out of those spider eggs came Mukat and his twin brother, Temawea. But somehow they figured out that Mukat came out a little bit ahead of his brother, so he's kind of figured as the older or elder, and that carries all the way through the culture there. But it was totally dark, and he couldn't see anything until, I don't know whether he created it or he just happened, but the lizard. Here's the lizard. And the lizard is Muyak. And Muyak, we kind of figured, swallowed the dark so Mukat could see. So that's how the light comes to Mukat, like that. And so there's a whole evolution that's going on there. And over here in my painting, I have tuned in much into the desert out here and to the spirits and so forth. So this is my painting, actually, of Mukat and Temawea. Here they are the twins. And what they're doing here is creating. This is very similar to the Egyptian Genesis itself. In the beginning, there was only dust and mist. That's Muya Nege and Quilya Yashe. And it came together. It came together and made a cloud. And then that cloud rose up. And Quilya rose up. And that's what's happening here. These are the 2 creators, and out of dust and mist, they are raising this. Then along with this, if you go over here to this, what this is symbolizing here, each one, or either one or the other or both together, drew out of their or his chest this cane like that. And that cane is called Nakwa. and out of that they created the world around that. Now the resemblance of this to Egyptian, the words are different, but it's the same. In Egypt, you would see the Pharaoh, or an image of the Pharaoh. He's carrying something just like this, and that in Egypt is called a hikwa. So you have, whether it's nakwa or hikwa, that's a Pharaoh's symbol. So what relevates back to this creation story is that when Coyote decided to go into the ground, into the earth, everything was pulling down with him, and the sky was pulling down. So Mukat lifted up his nakwa, his cane, and he held it up to make it stronger. So in the language, that's ivat ini, to make the sky stronger. And that's very relevant to what I'm going to tell you eventually. And so the resemblance of this continued into the Pualam, that means the shaman. This is the shaman's staff, or something like that, bigger than the one I have here. But this is just to demonstrate that the resemblance to this in Egypt, where the hikwa is also has a power, a magic here. The other thing is that here I have this is a Coyote clay pipe here. And what I have it there for, in the song, we're talking about Psalms, these creation stories are in Coyote in the form of songs. And so in the creation song, Mukat and Coyote bring tobacco with them. It comes from their heart, the song says. It comes from their heart. And so Pavit is the tobacco, and Ish is the pipe. So tobacco's there right at the beginning. When you come over here to this character that I have here, this is Clay, frog-looking character with a cigar in his mouth like this. This is made by Annie Fields. The Mojave are adjacent. The Mojave the desert and the Esbarrego Desert run together, and the people that live, they're not the Coyote, but they're next door. They're the Mojave, and that's where this is from. Now remember, the frog stands for or symbolizes tobacco. And of course, the tobacco makes smoke, and the smoke goes up into the clouds and makes rain. And the rain comes down, and as we saw last week with the Borrego says, rain comes with me. So it was the adage for the desert people especially, that rain and Borregos go together. So that's what is meaning there. And here while we're standing here, these are two of my earlier shields for, you can see, the Borregos. This one was actually in an exhibit in Borrego Springs a couple of years ago. And this here, this is a mask. This is also from Borrego Springs. That is from the Ram's Head, Ted Townsend. And what's unusual is that this is Mulyak. Mulyak is the lizard. Mulyak is the link to the Iva'a. Now everything in the Egypt that A-mon became is this personification of this creative force, that totally became anthropomorphized and eventually became God himself, and so forth. But the Coyote didn't go that route. They maintained it in a different way. And this is my painting for that. The Coyote word, Iva, means power or strong. So when Mukat lifted his staff up to hold up the sky, that's what he said. He said, Iva ini, to make it strong. So that's where the word comes from. Now this is Iva ah, almost like the A-mon. So Iva like that, and that means means that this is what possesses this power. It possesses this creative force. And here that I've painted, these are the reeds. These are the reeds. So the old adage is, why have you come out in the desert to see a reed blowing in the wind? That is the meaning for the whole thing. So here's the the clouds that the reeds are growing up from, and here this symbolizes this. I put this flute here, this whistle here, for the holes, because it means blowing is what enlarges, is what makes them grow, makes them raise up. So this is my painting expressing Iba, also including the earlier or coexistent Egyptian concept for this of the reed. Again, the reed is a grass. It's actually a grass, and you know that grass is blowing in the wind. So I really like that painting for that. So all of these things I've kind of covered for this subject to get an understanding for these concepts. Now the A-mon, in the first place, was not a folk idea. To realize that, I don't know, maybe less than 2,000 years ago, Egypt, kind of disintegrated. First the Greeks had taken over, then the Romans took over, and lastly, about 14 or 1500 years, the Arabs came in, and whatever wasn't destroyed, they destroyed it. And it has been that way up until a couple years ago, when the people of Horus evicted Morbak. Morbak was an Arab, and that was the signature of the Arab domination of this country. So for hundreds of years, the language and history of Egypt really wasn't known. There was a Christian Egyptian scribe, Manetho, who told the Greeks some of the ideas, the chronology of the pharaohs, and like that. So that's about it. Until in the 19th century, Campion had broken the code and deciphered the Egyptian script. And Wallace Budge, in the late 19th century, published the first books on the knowledge that we're talking about. So in all that time. But in the meantime, however that it happened, that the people, I'm calling Kauai here, have maintained a version of these myths that are not written in the tombs. Everybody knows that the Egyptian culture, as we know it, because we're getting it from the tombs for most of it, is all about the afterlife. And people, the aristocrats, the royalty, they invested a lot of money, and there was a whole industry, to furnish, all of the equipment and expensive tombs and all kinds of things. So the people in the desert, they didn't have any of that, but they have the same concept. So what in Egypt is called the Ba, in Egypt is the ram. And so now we're going to say A-mon has been associated with the ram. They have in Egypt found hundreds of mummified rams that these people, mummified, just like they mummified everything really, but also, many of the rams. So the ram and A-mon became identified together like that. Part of it could have been the age of Aries, because that's also the ram. It can be figured into it. But seeing the extent that people went to for the ram, here, the Borrego, is come from, because, so it really gets you, what does the sheep say? Bah! That's what it was. Bah! So, bah! Then that got to be the soul of Ra. If you say A-mon Ra, then you're saying Ba Ra. That's the soul of Ra. And that's, as crazy as it seems, the foolishness of people, how they go like that. So originally the A-mon was really an intellectual gymnastics of the priests. You know, this wasn't a popular character, a popular religion among the many they had. But it looks to me like in the Kauai, these are the folk people. These people have come from North Africa, from Libya. Another people are the people, the Zuni. This book, The Zuni Enigma. This is written by Nancy Davis. She's an anthropologist in Washington. So it's very, very interesting what, you know, she's doing here. So she's really looked into it. Now the Zuni in American history, what they kind of call it, are outstanding because, as the Arizona Highways published a special on Coronado, the Spanish pirate, amassed, you know, the most expensive expedition in Mexico City and marched up through the desert. People have tried to relocate his trail and so forth to this little pueblo that's on the border of Arizona, eastern Arizona, or western New Mexico. And there he laid siege to it. And for the Americans, Arizona Highways, Coronado was the first man of civilization to set foot in the savage land of Native America. That's what it says, like that. But this is an American poppycock. Actually, Coronado was from the part of Spain, almost the southern part of Spain, and he took part in expeditions into Morocco, Mauritania, which is only 50 miles away. And so he had seen the people there, and he wrote about it in his journal. He knew that these people, the Americans call Zuni, are actually Berbers. And in this book, she gives their true name. That's what's outstanding. Ashui. Ashui is recognizable as the Egyptian name for the Berbers. And that she's done it right, like that. You know, she has the A and then the dot, Shiwi. So it means the travelers, the wayfarers or the travelers. And that's who the Berbers are. The Berbers actually are the Bavara, meaning the sons of the bear. And the bear is the constellation, the bear. So that's their guiding light, their guiding star. Further, that this place now called Zuni, the pueblo of Zuni, on Spanish maps is called Nueva Granada, New Granada. Granada is the Berber state in Spain, and the capital of that is the Alhambra. A big red building is what the Alhambra means. And in his journal, he claims to have encountered the Alhambra. So it's certain that he knew that these were Berbers, and even the word adobe, comes from them, because he says, just as in the Berbers that he's referring to live in the Jurjura Mountains, back from the coast of North Africa, and these people live also in the mountains there in New Mexico. So that he's even saying the people in this pueblo are the women dressed the same as the Moroccan women, something to that effect. And furthermore, the pueblo that he laid siege to is called Hawiku. It means house of the goddess, and the goddess is the Sibyl, Cabell. And that's what their name was. The Americans have fished out a totally bogus name called Cibola, meaning the 7 cities of gold. No, that's an American rendering of the Cabell. The Cabell are the followers of the Sibyl, in Greek, Cabell. So all of that, you know, I'm saying because I want to point out that the author here, although seeming does not know that these are Berbers, and there are other things that show that they are, has used that ashiwi, like that. That's the main thing that I was wanting to say, as well as saying English Americans have grossly misapprehended Native America and its people. And I'm doing whatever I can to say something about that. So I think I've made a pretty good case here for everybody. And what I'm going to finish with here is a poem. Now, this poem is from this book, Mary Harker. She has, quite an amazing history, and she's been Claudia's poetry teacher for the Blue Stockings here. She's a UC Berkeley graduate and holds teaching credentials and master's degree in English from San Diego State, a professional certificate from also UCSD. She's written theses and books and so forth, and she's been teaching poetry workshops at Oasis for 30 years. And this, her book here, Treasure Hunt, wonderful. And this poem of hers, I was quite taken by it. And to go along with the theme with this, in this poem, which she titles Desert Sunset, a Hymn, where she has, starting with the first line, the word G-O-D. I'm going to replace it with A-mon and see how this reads to you. Desert Sunset, a Hymn. Unfold yourself tonight, A-mon. Set the sky afire in red. Hold me in your might. Palms are swaying overhead. Dove calls float on tender wind. Shadows disappear. Light by light each star ascends. Blinks against all fear. Scorpions, tarantulas, rattlesnakes and bees, hyacinth and Joshua, mistletoe in the trees. Unfold yourself tonight, A-mon. Spark my mind, my heart unwrap. Hold me in your might till the webbed wings, still the webbed wings of the bat. Kit fox curls in sandy den, rabbits sound asleep. Elf owl hoots as rising moon silhouettes the bighorn sheep. Scorpions, tarantulas, rattlesnakes and bees, hyacinth and Joshua, mistletoe in the trees. Unfold yourself tonight, A-mon. Coyotes howling at the sky. Hold me in your might, A-mon, in the mystery of beauty's cry. Thank you, Mary. Go ahead.